Kia ora everybody, welcome back to the Black Jersey. My name's Max, I'm the host of this channel. A big thank you as per normal to my patrons for your ongoing support. For today's video, I've got a really special guest again. Rosie Kelly's just been called into the Black Ferns, had a really good season at 10 for Matatū. Man, Rosie, you've been in some really good form. Great to have you on, eh?
No, thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Nice, good stuff. A lot of people were interested to hear your story and stuff. Like you've played pretty much all across the back line. Like you've done a bit of 9, bit of 10, 15 even.
Yeah.
Been a bit of a mission into the black jersey. So firstly, we'll head back to how things all started now that we've celebrated the wee entry into the Black Ferns and stuff. So when did you kind of begin playing rugby and why'd you start it?
To be honest, I've played rugby like forever. I think I was probably like 4 or 5 when I started playing. My dad was heavily involved in a club on the West Coast, and then my older brother played, and like dad coached him. So we just like were always down at the rugby field. I just wanted to be like my brother at the time. And so I just like followed him onto the field pretty much and started playing when I was pretty young.
No, good on you. I think some of that stuff happens, eh? Like I've heard stories like the 4-year-old comes down to the training ground, the 5-year-old's already playing to start off. It's just how a lot of
Yeah,
people do it, eh? That's
yeah,
great.
definitely.
Did you play like with the boys and stuff and everything? Like just go for it.
Yeah, I was the only girl the whole time that I played, like in the junior grade. So up until I was 12 and went to high school, I was the only girl, like pretty much in any age group that I was playing, like on the West Coast. I didn't hear of many other girls playing at all. So it was all just with the boys.
Jeez, that's crazy. It's something I've also noticed, like it's a common thing with a few of your Black Ferns teammates. Like it's been playing with the boys and mate, as an inside back, one of the smallest players, how did that prepare you for professional rugby, Rosie?
I think it just like taught you to be like tough. So like you'd hear the odd comment like, "Oh, she's a girl, like she shouldn't be playing rugby," or like, she won't be any good at rugby. So it taught you from a young age to be tough and to stick up for yourself and like sort of know your worth. I would say the boys that I played with were really like they were like my best mates. Like I didn't feel like an outsider in the team at all. But obviously, like the physicality of playing with the boys, how quick they are, how quick they are thinking about the rugby game. Like I think that just taught me to be as quick and as strong as them at the time. So I think it set me up pretty well.
I think we've definitely seen the bit of the fighting spirit and stuff for Matatū, especially in that final. Speaking of the pro level, you've already had like a really strong career. For you guys in the audience, so this all began for Rosie in 2016 with the Canterbury Sevens team. Then you were called into 15s for 2017. So like as a teenager, was this call up expected for the FPC or just all completely out of the blue?
No, I wasn't expecting the call up for FPC while I was still at school. Like it's not like back then it wasn't very normal to have schoolgirls in FPC. I was sort of thinking maybe the next year I'd be pushing for it. I hadn't heard from the FPC coaches like all season that year. I was just playing club, playing some 9, some 10. And then I got a call like they'd already named the squad for the Canterbury team, and I didn't make it. And then my best friend Grace Brooker had made it, and I was kind of like, damn it. I really wanted to be in there. And we were at school together at the time and stuff. And then within a week, they rang me and they said, "Look, we've been really sorry. We've actually completely overlooked you. We've made the wrong decision," and they swapped me out for another player. So then I
Yeah.
got added into the squad. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah,
a bit of a laugh, eh? It just happens sometimes.
yeah.
So
No, it
they
was a bit
finally
awkward,
made the
but
right decision. Oh,
yeah,
that's
I was on the right end of that. Yeah.
as we've come to know, guys, a second hand's worth of fingers, as I said at the start of your video, it's required to see how many positions you play, Rosie. So what jersey did Canterbury actually pick you in when they finally made that correct call to get you back in the FPC?
I was a 9, so I was behind Kendra, and then Diahini was sort of like in and out at the time. She'd just come back from overseas, and so it was sort of between me and her. Kendra had just been away with the Black Ferns, and she was coming off like a really full on season, so she didn't play the first couple of games. So I think that was why they wanted another 9 to come in. So that was pretty exciting because obviously at the time, like as a 17-year-old, you don't get much game time behind Kendra for the same position. So for the first few games, I was getting like half games at 9. And then once Kendra came back, it was like, 10 minutes at the end. But I was just there to learn. Like, that was all I needed.
Yeah, it's a bloody good person to be learning off and stuff like from that age, eh? Like you would have been so young just learning off the go, man. Like that's awesome, eh? Something the audience asked me to cover as well. It was your wee betrayal as one person worded of Canterbury for the Otago Spirit in 2018. It's a bit of a classic story, like moving down to Dunedin. How did this shift accelerate your career?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't a decision I made lightly. To be honest, I really want to stay in Christchurch because I just made the FPC team and like I felt like my rugby career could have taken off. But like my other, you've got to think about your other parts of your career, and I really wanted to do something in the medical sort of area. And I knew the only place I could do that was Auckland or Otago. And then in the end, like I'm not gonna lie, I applied late to Otago. Like it was a really like hard decision. It took me months. And so I'd like missed out on all the halls and stuff and had to be like a late admission, missed out on all the scholarships, but decided to head down to Otago. Um, at the time I thought it was gonna be like a disadvantage for my rugby career, leaving like we just won FPC for the first time in ages. And then in the end, I would say that it was probably the best move I've ever made for my rugby career, because you went from like being at the bottom of the pile in Canterbury to being one of the leaders within a year in Otago and just like having to learn on the go. Lots of game time, lots of exposure in Otago, playing sort of in the lower level of FPC. I think it like got my confidence up heaps. Yeah.
So you reckon it was pretty cool to like make that decision at the last minute, just like head down and get involved with the leadership group, like it really just helped you being a key decision maker for the team and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Like I know if I had stayed in Christchurch, I would have stayed behind Kenj for another. Well, she only retired this year, so it would have been another few years. And I'd actually once I moved to Otago, they were the ones that moved me into first five. So I would have never played. I wouldn't have played first five if I stayed in Canterbury as well. So having to take on that leadership role and learning a new position, which found out probably suited me. Well, some say more, some say nine is just as suited, but like I enjoyed the 10 a lot more down there. So I think it was the best decision for me in the end.
Yeah, that was I found that really interesting that you didn't shift to 10 till like what 18 or 19 or so. That's pretty cool to hear. Another question I've got from the audience as well is like, is study or even a plan B pretty important for a pro athlete in your eyes?
I think like it used to be really, really important in the women's game, obviously because we weren't professional. And I still think it's just as important, but you can also get a lot of opportunities from rugby. For me, it's like you're going from year to year off contract, so you don't have much job security in the Black Ferns. You can be contracted 1 year and then within 2 months of losing your contract, you're then trying to find a job. So for me, like at school, my academic was just as important, and like it was a weirdo and like loved school. So like the academic side was just as important for me personally, but I know other people like rugby's their life, and I don't see that as a disadvantage either.
No, good stuff. Good to hear that. So we'll move on to the latter end, like getting more to recent times. You learned you were on the radar kind of for test selection when playing for the NZ Barbarians in 2020 against the Black Ferns. Then you went to rejoin Canterbury the following year, and obviously Aupiki turned up for 2022. So we've kind of established the rise of your career. We'll also get to a few tips on like training, study, and like overcoming injuries, just to continue down that path of the job security. Just because there are a few young women who are wondering like on those tips you could have for them, like that you might have picked up during that rising period, when you were coming in as a 10.
Yeah, it's really hard when you're not contracted because you're competing with the contracted girls who get to train full time. So you've just got to remember that like that hard work is going to pay off eventually. So for like 2 years there, I was leaving home at 6 a.m., going to the gym, then going to work last year for 8 hours of the day as a physio, which is kind of a physical job as well. And then, having training at 6 o'clock at night till 8. But like at the time, I would sometimes think it was a chore. But now I know that that hard work always pays off. You're not doing it for no reason, and you've got to do more than what other people were doing to make it. But I think in turn, like that balance is just as important. So when I was studying, like I would have to like my PDM would make me schedule and like socializing because I would just go to training and study and then have no social life and then I'd go insane. So it's pretty hard and everyone has different balances. So like mine's probably like 80% rugby, would have been like 10% study, and then the rest would like be socializing, whereas some people would have it really different. Um, But I would just say my tips would be like speak to people to help you out because your load gets massive. And like stick to a schedule and make sure you have breaks. Like if you're not having fun outside of rugby and study, you're not going to succeed.
Yeah, those are awesome tips. So it's kind of a bit of a different uni experience for you overall compared to the average student. Like you were pretty much born to be a key decision maker from Matatū, whereas everyone else in the halls was just, the usual.
Yeah, yeah, it was challenging. Like in the first year of uni, I didn't make heaps and heaps of friends because I was doing first year health science and I was training, so it sucked because they were all going to heaps of parties. But then in second year, I was a lot better at finding a balance and having that social aspect, and that's when like I found my rugby career. Like I was training less, but I was actually performing better. But it wasn't a typical uni experience, that's for sure. I tried
Yeah,
to make
so
it sometimes.
just sorry I cut you off there
No.
almost. So like mental health is like real massive as well in your opinion, is like it's the key to finding that balance, is it?
Yeah, I would definitely say like 100% you're going to go insane. And mental health always comes into it, and it's such a huge thing that we talk about now, which is great. But yeah, having that balance, and as long as you're enjoying what you're doing, then your mental health should like stay steady along the way.
Oh, that's awesome. Good stuff. Now we arrive, of course, inaugural Super Rugby Aupiki season for Matatū. Short season, but a really good one for yourself. Getting game time at 9, all 3 games. Kendra Cox said she missed the first 2. I can't remember why, but that was gutting. How did it feel on a personal level, like to get all that game time in all 3 fixtures and like play Super Rugby in the inaugural women's season? Like it would have been massive, like the first ever year of it. Talk me through that.
Yeah, it was really exciting. Like when we got the contracts and things, knowing that you like, especially for Mata too, because there was like it was a brand new franchise, so there was so much that you were like the first in. And then obviously COVID come around and changed the structure of the competition quite a lot. Changed the experience for all of us. It was still like an amazing thing to be part of, but it definitely was a spinner thrown in there. And changed it quite a bit. Um, Game time, yeah, like I was happy, but I probably wasn't playing in the position I wanted to. So I must admit, like I didn't love the season. But like there was just different opinions and what position I should be at the time, and I was getting information from about 10 different people on where they thought I should be playing. But I was just grateful to be on the field and get a cap for Matatū. Like in a couple of years' time, to say you're in the first ever team will be pretty awesome.
Okay, that's quite interesting. Kind of explains why this year was so much of a breakout year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's just stinging to hear all those mixed messages. 2022, bit of a disappointment for Matatū as a whole, though. Team didn't quite manage a win. What lessons did the team take away from those results?
It was a really interesting year for us, obviously, because of the structure of the competition and the nature of our team was we're an 80-minute to 85-minute team. And for a start, there was 70-minute games because of COVID. And you're allowed like extra people on the bench, whereas we backed ourselves to be really fit and not need those extra people. So like all excuses aside, like the structure of the competition, I think we let it get out and outside our head, whereas we didn't adapt as well as what we should have to those new rules. Um, but like being away with the team, I think we learned so much about what to do and what not to do. Hence why this year was so different. But like the main thing was having that belief this year, whereas last year we were so worried about like the uncontrollables, like how long we were playing, that we forgot to just worry about like playing.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Seems like a theme, like the freedom of your play just really helps you like with form and stuff. Really interesting to hear that and stuff because like you really see it now that you've mentioned it. Like for this year, you shifted to 10 at last, had a blinder in Opiki, like you've played all around the back line before, but how did it feel like finally getting that confidence from the coaches to slot you in as the first choice 10, be a key decision maker, just express yourself? Like, how was that for a contrast and stuff compared to the Corona year? Like, just to continue on that pathway.
Yeah, to be honest, it was just like a relief to see that like what I had been thinking was like true. So I'd always thought that I was a first five and that I could make it as a first five, but I had some people tell me that I couldn't, and that I was more of a halfback. So I think once I got that first start, like I put a lot of pressure on myself to be like, well, they've given me the start now, like you've got to play well because this is what I've been asking for the last couple of years. So it was relief the first couple of games. And then it was just like enjoyment. So my best friends were in the team. Grace Brooke had grown up with since boarding school, back from injury. Like that was just so cool to be back on the field with her. Amy Duplessis, who I play with, like, and then me and Di Heaney, like we just had such a good, like, honest relationship, so we could demand what we wanted from each other and it not get like awkward off the field. So I think like we just took the relationships to the next level so that we trusted each other so much in the team, and like every game we enjoyed, even if we didn't play like the most amazing, because we learned so much from it. And to be honest, yeah, I just felt like 3 at 10 this year.
Yeah, definitely saw it. Especially with the running stats that I pulled up from the All Blacks app, like 18th in the rankings for meters run, fourth for clean breaks, nine for passes. All of just 24 carries as well for you guys in the audience. So some definitely impressive numbers there from you, Rosie. All while being a key decision maker for the team as well. Like, so this kind of mental health side of it, it's all just the secret to form, and the key for you is like feeling good to play good.
Yeah, definitely. Like if I'm not enjoying the environment that I'm in, or like I'm not confident, then I really struggle. Obviously, being a game driver and having to lead a team, like you have to be confident in yourself, and have the trust from like the players and the coaches around you. And then yeah, you can just play, like get on the field and play rugby and not be thinking about 20 different things.
Another pretty wholesome story this season definitely has to be your team's Super Rugby Aupiki title as well. Audience, they were keen to hear about the massive improvements made by Matatū. So kind of like without spilling any like tactical secrets and stuff like that, are you keen to just like talk us through how the team won, etc. when it comes to how things went on the field and stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I think like our management and our players this year were like really well aligned and like took the feedback on so much from last year. We had like an amazing theme of the like campaign that like everyone brought into and believed in. I think the massive thing that we used as fuel was like everyone saying we were the underdog, because we knew with the names in our team and like how much of a team we were, not individual players, that like we could win. So I think we just use it as fuel, like whenever we saw comments about us like being the underdog or not winning a game last year and that sort of thing. Like we just use that as ammunition. Like definitely our coaches came up with some tactical new ways of like, doing transition attack or something like that. But it was like I would say the off field stuff was the big change, and just having that belief within us. Like when we won the final and everyone was like, oh, did you really think that you were going to win? And like our whole team would have turned around and said, yes, we knew we were going to win, even when we were like 19 points down. Like in the halftime
Yeah,
sheet, like
yeah.
we looked up at each other and we were just like, we can do this. We just need the ball. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, like it's just that belief. As long as everyone in the team believes and buys into everything, like that was the recipe to success this year.
Yeah, I mean that Chiefs team, even though I support them, like at least it was luckily it was lost to a good opposition, gutting, but really good to see. You just can't defend for all that time. You just got to mix it up. Paid off so well. Can really see that. Now we get to the real exciting part, of course. Your call up to the Black Ferns and the test debut that should follow in the Pack 4. Should you avoid the injuries and stuff, of course, it would have been a huge moment, like to get the phone call about the news. What was your initial reaction to it, and who'd you first tell about it?
Yeah, we knew we were getting the phone calls, like I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and so everyone was pretty nervous. I live with Amy, as I said, so like we were both sort of waiting around our phones. She'd been called about an hour before ours, so I was pretty nervous because she got like obviously got in, and I was like, oh gosh, like. And I got a call from Tony Christie, and I wasn't expecting him. I thought that the backs coach might have. And he, of course, just like talked to me for 10 minutes about anything but the selection. And I was like, great. But then he told me, and I just like smiled and said, yeah, thank you. And then got off the phone. And then me and Amy sort of just like celebrated together. My parents were overseas in Europe. So I rang them straight away, and it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. And woke them up and told them. And so they were stoked and booked their, like they would only got home today and they've already booked their flights for Brisbane, because they just don't want to miss out, just in case, no matter what, even if I don't debut, they just want to be there. But it was pretty awesome. Like, I think the contract was exciting, but now to actually be on tour is like when it's actually sinking in that I could like debut this year.
Just a wee ad lib, so like getting the contract and stuff, it was one thing, but actually being in the squad, was that like another like whole new level of excitement and relief, etc., just compared to like the payments and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Like when I got the contract, I was obviously stoked because it's job security. It means I can train full time as an athlete, which is like your dream. But I knew that like you can have a contract for 2 years and never play for the Black Ferns. And so everyone was saying congratulations, and I was like, yeah, but it still doesn't mean like I am a Black Fern yet. So for me, like I'm not a Black Fern until I play for the Black Ferns. So like when I found out that I was coming on tour, like I was way more excited than the contract.
So you're pretty much thinking of it as like first step contract, second step squad, and third step just getting on the pitch and hopefully getting a try or a conversion or something if it comes off.
Yeah, I mean, just getting on the pitch will be good.
You don't seem
Yeah.
like you're gonna mind a Stephen Pettifeta like 2 minutes, eh?
Or I mean, I prefer a little bit longer than that, but like as long as you're on
Yeah.
the field, you're on the field.
Yeah, it would be good to have like a way longer one and stuff because I'm not a big fan of like when debutants play for like the last 10 minutes or whatever. Like if the score line's like a decent enough margin, just chuck them on at like 50 or
Mhm.
60 or so, I reckon. Like
Yeah.
when it comes to off field and stuff, what was the main difference between like moving up from the FPC and Aupiki, just like in comparison to like the training and stuff that you've talked to me about, like we've already established and stuff?
I guess like it's just the like next level of professionalism. Like you have to do your analysis of teams. Like you get to know who you're playing with. Like you really need to know who you're playing with inside and out of you, so you that have those connections. Um, but I'll just say like everything is a step up. But you just try and my biggest goal is to try and stay myself throughout like whatever team I'm in. So not get intimidated by like say being in the Black Ferns, especially as a game driver, like off the field. I need to get to know everyone so that they trust me on the field to make the calls and stuff. Whereas if I'm just like chilling in my room and not talking to anyone, they're not going to listen to me on the field. So
Yeah.
like off the field, you've got to make those connections. Otherwise, you don't have that trust on the field.
Yeah, that's totally valid. Like I can totally see where you're coming from, like being a key decision maker for the team, like a member of the spine, just like getting on with everyone and stuff. I can definitely get behind it. What's been like the best part of the team environment as well? Like, and how is that like assisting your I guess arrival into the team?
I think just like you come in and there's no hierarchy. So like yes, we're rookies, but you don't feel like any disadvantage or anything like that, or anyone in here is like better than you or higher up. You obviously have your captains and stuff, but like they're the most approachable people like in the team, I would say. For me, having Lou or Ruahe in front of me, like you're never in competition for a spot. Like she's always helping me. There's everyone around them is helping each other, especially now that you're actually in like the tour squad and you're a team, not like trialing for positions. So I would say that one's massive. Like everyone's on an equal playing field and you don't feel like really uncomfortable or anything like that. Same with the management, like you have banter with the coaches, like they're not just your rugby coaches, you can actually talk to them outside of training.
Too good. Sounds like a real Ellen Bunting environment, eh? Everything hearing. It's been so good to like hear about your come up and stuff. What drives you to be a better player every day and like off the field and everything. With your test debut now fast approaching, just before we end this, do you have any more like pieces of advice for young women looking to make their Black Ferns debut later down the line?
One of the ones that one biggest piece of advice that I've had to like keep hammering is one coach's opinion is just their opinion. And there's multiple coaches and multiple people in the world, and it doesn't define who you are. So like trying to separate someone's opinion versus what you think, because it isn't always the same and well aligned. And if you take it to heart, like you're always just going to be down and disappointed. And then like just hard work. You have to work harder than the person beside you because not everyone's going to be a Black Fern, and especially now that it's so much more of a career, there's going to be more females wanting to be a Black Fern. So you've got to work harder than everyone else to make the squad of say 30. Yeah.
No worries. Thanks so much, Rosie. Really appreciate that. Great piece of advice.
No worries. Thank you.
Good. So for everyone down in the comments and stuff, remember to share your thoughts on what Rosie's test debut goes like and stuff after it happens. Remember to subscribe and everything. Also really just can't stress this enough. Go the mighty Black Ferns, and thanks so much for watching. Cheers, everybody.